Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar tonight for common mistakes that business women make. Let's jump straight in. This is recorded. Unfortunately, I couldn't do this live, so there's no one putting in questions for me, and there's no one that I can engage with at the end. However, for those watching the replay, please, by all means, reach out to me. The best place to do that is in a Facebook group. Legal support for women, so jump over there. Now, I'm a businesswoman too, and don't legal problems when they arise just derail you sometimes? So they can come out of the blue, particularly potentially employment problems, or where you have gone into an agreement with or an arrangement with someone on goodwill and not had it in writing. The stress, the sleepless nights, the frustration with yourself and the situation, and it just taking up way too much mental space. We don't want that. We know, unfortunately, from research that it's about 83% of women, when they have a legal problem, do not get professional advice. That can be for many reasons, of course. Fear, shame, being worried about costs, being worried about judgment, not knowing where to start, going and getting poor advice from a Facebook forum about what to do instead. We don't want that happening. We want to try and make sure that we have a soft landing place for women when we face a challenge in our business. We want to know that the information we're getting is accurate. We want to know the proper place to start. We want to be educated as to what options we have, what pathways there are available, and what the costs are likely to be for each pathway. There are so many alternatives to going the legal route. And yes, that can be super scary, and that is what can prevent people or women from going down the path, because they just see the system and it's intimidating and costly and time consuming. However, there are very many alternate pathways which are cheap and timely. The system, unfortunately, is not broken. It was never set up for us in the first place. And it is set up in a business model so that it will make money for lawyers, because legal is an industry, it's a service industry. So how do you navigate that whole process without getting ripped off, knowing that you're actually going to be looked after, knowing how to find the right person, how to start in the right place, what pathway is right for you, all these things. So why pay attention to me? My name's Jackie Broman. I run a law firm, TBA Law. I've run that for over a decade. Obviously worked as a lawyer for quite a few years before starting my own practice as well. It is based in Victoria. Don't hold that against me. This logo over here is held by very few solicitors. In each state, there is a association or institution for lawyers. So in Victoria, it's the Law Institute. In other states, it's a law society. They've got an accredited specialist program. So I'm not just a general practitioner. I have gone through a process where I also got my master's degree on top of my bachelor, but I then did a 12-month process with the Law Institute and further examination to get specialist accreditation. So watch out for that logo if you are looking for a lawyer. You get accredited in particular areas of the law. So I'm accredited in wills, deceased estates, and succession planning. And as an indication, there are about 22,000 lawyers in Victoria and only about 80 with this accreditation in my particular practice area. So, and I've also been and done my mediation training. So After many years with the brainwashing of a traditional lawyer, I've then gone and actually did collaborative practice training first and then mediation training. So I know how lawyers are getting it wrong. And I'm an industry insider. I don't necessarily believe in the justice system anymore. It is appropriate for certain people, but certainly only the minority. In fact, the Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Australia just retired, and he said that litigation is the failure end of the law. So it should not be where lawyers are funneling people. So what we're learning today is the mistakes that business women are making and look, potentially what we should be doing instead. The mistakes before a problem, during a problem, and after a problem, I'm going to focus on for you. So when we go into business, we're usually a specialist in the niche or the thing that we do. We don't usually come with a whole lot of business experience. So we don't know what we don't know, and we fumble through. And when we make a mistake, we usually learn from it. So we make mistakes that are often legal problems, and hopefully they're fairly small and we learn from them and we start realizing, actually, I need to be getting advice in this area, this area, this area, so that you don't keep your head in the sand as you grow bigger and your legal problems become bigger. Now, you don't know employment law, you don't know contract law, you don't know corporations law, you don't know business structures. There are so many other little areas. And then, of course, each industry has its own regulation. Hopefully you're far more up to speed with your own area of regulation. Then there's OH&S, there's discrimination, there are trade practices, fair trading, so many regulations, tax. So when we are small and we're hustling, of course, we're trying to save money. But if you're up to the stage where your business is spending $2,000 a year on an accountant, you should be spending about the same amount of money on legal advice. And that $2,000 will get you a long way of legal advice. It will potentially get you templates and update terms and conditions. And if you spend $2,000 a year on legal fees to get ahead of any problems before they happen, you're probably in a really good place. Then once we get into a legal problem, the mistakes that we make is that we don't find out all our options. We don't know our alternatives. We don't have the resources available to us. We don't know that, yes, you can go potentially to the business and family ombudsman to resolve a dispute for little to no cost. There are other ombudsmans depending on what area. Your consumer affairs or fair trading in your state has free dispute resolution services. You have access to women's legal services in each state for a free appointment for initial legal advice, which can point you in the right direction. The business commissioner in your state also provides advice. The business bus regularly comes around to various places in Australia to be able to help you with your OH&S and your employment information, with your terms and conditions, all those sorts of things to help you put your policies and procedures into place properly. Other alternatives, rather than going to see a lawyer, learn who the private mediators are that you trust in your area. I can help you to come up with a short list or help you to learn how to narrow down to someone that you trust. A mediator can do a facilitated conversation for you for 90 minutes for well under $1,000, which could help you have a difficult conversation early so it stops an escalation. They can do a half-day mediation. They can do full-day mediations. You can bring them in. You can do them on Zoom. So that's a fantastic service that does not involve legal. And then, of course, if you do need legal advice, get the advice, find out further options, further legal options, whether a lawyer can negotiate something for you, whether there is another pathway for you, like a VCAT application, or QCAT or NCAT, whatever state you're in. And make sure that they don't just say, this is what we're going to do, and charge down the pathway. Now, that's a whole nother webinar about how to manage the legal engagement. I do have a pre-recorded one of those, which I did live as well, if you'd like that information. During a legal problem, we also, I think women do this far more than men, freeze or doubt our decision-making. We run things past too many people. We seek too many people's opinions. We don't trust what our own gut or our own intuition is telling us. We need to be doing that as businesswomen. That is where most of our power comes, or more special power than men generally have, is our intuition and our connection and our empathy and our ability to read people. So if we can't do that when we are stressed, we need to make sure that we have tools and practices that can help reduce the stress, so we can still tap into our intuition, so that we also learn the best way that we should be making decision under pressure. So when I say trust your gut, that might not be the way that you need to make decisions. That's certainly the way that I make decisions. I need to feel it bodily and act on it straight away, because that intuition does not last for me. It doesn't hang around. For others, it may be that they have to sleep on it and see how they feel in the morning. For others, the intuition might be more subtle than the gut feeling. For others, the right way to make decisions may actually be to talk about it to other people. And as they talk, they gain clarity. For others, it may be writing. It may be writing questions and answering them for themselves. And as they write, they gain clarity. So all these things can help in the good times to understand and be prepared before you get into a difficult situation. If you do want more information energetically about what the best decision-making process is for you, I could also send you to somewhere to get your inner authority. Knowledge. So after a dispute, let's hope we learn from it. Let's hope we are not going to make the same mistakes over and over again, even if it's the same mistake with different people or a slightly different form. Like, if we keep making the same mistake because we are unprepared, then that's our fault. That's a lesson that we're here to learn, and we need to actually learn our lessons, or else the lessons will become harder and harder and start kicking you or pushing you down instead of just being little problems. So you're going to be learning, you're going to be building resources, you're going to be building connections and links. You're going to be able to understand and how to find the right support around you. And that's part of what I'm trying to help teach and build a community of like-minded women who can then just be a resource for you to go to first, rather than looking for some vague Facebook group. This is what I'm curating for you. And then being prepared. So being prepared is more than just taking your head out of the sand and spending that $2,000 a year on systematically going through and updating and making sure you're all good. Preparation also involves putting some of those well-being practice in place so that you actually have tools in your belt to help you through the difficult, stressful times. And preparation is also being able to self-regulate to a degree. So to be able to understand what your values are and who you are, and come to a dispute very clear about what outcome you want, and who you're going to be throughout. So don't get dragged down by someone else. Don't become reactive and vindictive and wanting revenge, vengeful. That's probably not the kind of person that you want to be. And yet legal disputes can turn us into some kind of monster sometimes, particularly if we're unprepared and we don't think about these things. And as I said, self-regulate. So preparation is a lot of things. Preparation can involve a whole lot of self-regulation, as well as the actual policies and documents and contracts, and having those regularly looked at, and being proactive is the word I was looking for. So please, please, please be prepared. And then finally, I have touched on support before. The right support are not necessarily family and friends. Yes, other businesswomen, they may have been through similar things. Not some random Facebook group. The kinds of advice you get in forums is just a bit of a pile on, and often there's a whole lot of venting about people's bad experiences. So we don't want that either. Now, the right support involves making sure, firstly, that you've also got some support for your mental health. So if that is family and they're supporting you for decision-making and supporting you emotionally, that's great. If you need a psychologist or a counselor or a mastermind group, something like that, that can provide you that emotional support, and they understand that they're there for emotional support and not to provide opinions on what you're doing. They are there as a sounding board, and you need to be clear about that. Then having the right support professionally. So build your professional networks, not only in your industry with other businesswomen, but with professional service providers. So your accountant should be someone that you can turn to fairly easily. Also, see if you can develop a good relationship with a lawyer. Hopefully, lawyers are not someone that you need to see as regularly. So you may not have to have someone that you see twice a year like your accountant. But certainly, if you're spending $2,000 a year on having legal fees updated, then you might be touching base with a lawyer via email semi-regularly, and it is someone that you can call on. That lawyer might not be the kind of lawyer that can help you through every problem that you have, and you need to understand that as well. Lawyers don't have a magic wand, and we can't do everything in every particular area of the law. But if you know one lawyer who's good, that you trust in one particular area, they often have a network of their own that they can pull people from to help you in particular areas that you need. So this is a strength that I think men have is building networks and calling on their networks without feeling any emotional toll on that. I think women will build networks differently and understand that. You might need more of an emotional connection and feel more a different level of trust than a man might to go into their networks. However, don't not build networks. So certainly throughout my 20s, I did not build networks consciously, and I threw people away way too easily. But it is something consciously to do as a businesswoman. So I have raced through that fairly quickly. Unfortunately, I had an emergency, so I couldn't do this live for you today. But moving forward, yes, of course, do this solo. Go through, and you can jump into my free Facebook group. You're quite welcome there. Legal Support for Women. There is a whole lot of videos in there that you can learn from, and then go and implement and learn on your own. And you know, to be in business, you're probably very competent and organized, and you'll be okay. Everything will work out. But you can also do this supported. So while the Facebook group is free, there are other levels in my community as well, 2 other levels, in fact, that get you more access to me so that I can actually use my networks to help you if you need to. You can ask questions of me if you want closer access. And at the highest level as well, we also do a twice monthly Q&A / women's support circle. So You could, for example, if you were going through a really tough legal battle, be in the higher level where you needed that more support, and then you can go back down to the lower support when you're not under the stress. There's also business templates available there as well in that community. So Legally Wise Women is what I've created to help women have greater access to understand legal services, to have better experiences than they have, to make sure they actually try to get professional advice and have the advice that we know that women aren't getting. As I said, a safe place to land, a safe community that you know is curated and know has good information in it and is not just any old person having an event and trying to give advice when they don't have legal grounds to do so. So as I said, a couple of levels in the community. The higher level has fortnightly catch-ups, a Q&A, and a support group, access to me. There's hundreds of videos in there at both levels. There's extra templates in there for both levels, in fact. The lower level gets some of the Q&A recordings as well. The higher level also gets all the courses. So you get a legal business basics course, as well as how to find and hire the right lawyer and how to negotiate for what you want. So you get some negotiation skills built in there as well. So the best place to go to check all this out, other than the Facebook group, is wise.legallywisewomen.com.au. There is a free trial to have the lower level membership. The higher level membership's only $79 a month. You think about what my hourly rate is actually $4.50 plus GST. So very reasonable to have me twice a month for $79. And the other thing that you can do is, if you wanted to try the Women's Support Circle alone, which is part of the higher level, you can just do one of those for $19 as a one-off to see what that's like. So email me, jump into Facebook, into that group, DM me. I'd love to hear from you and to meet you and to help you as much as I can. Otherwise, have a great evening. Thank you for listening to me prattle on for so long. And I'm here for you if you need. Thanks.